Good evening, everyone. Rob here from Nutrition Europe, and welcome to lesson 2 of Dr. Robert Silverman's Essentials of Nutritional Medicine series. Lesson 2, we will be covering key nutritional protocols for the musculoskeletal system, and I will email the slides to everyone tomorrow, along with the link to watch this back if you want to. As before, if anyone has any questions, feel free to pop them in the box on the right-hand side. I'll come back at the end of the webinar to ask your questions to Dr. Silverman. I'm now going to pass you over to Dr. Rob, who will begin today's webinar.
Thanks so much, Rob. It's always a pleasure to be here. And I do appreciate everybody tuning in, whether it's live or Memorex. We've got a lot of positive feedback on lesson number 1. We were just answering some questions prior to coming on lesson 1. So feel free to, if you're not able to go live, to send those questions in, and I promise you we will get to them and answer them as the best we can. Last time we talked about the gut, and everybody knows, as far as I'm concerned, all health begins in the gut. It's a great starting point. It's a great starting point for any functional medicine practitioner. It's also a great starting point for anybody considering musculoskeletal or musculoskeletal injuries. I am going to go through a nice amount of key nutritional protocols for the musculoskeletal system. With my chiropractic background and speaking to those chiropractors, naturopaths, and the such, we all have to understand if we're going to incorporate nutrition, we're going to look at the body as a whole and look at the body from the inside out. And the musculoskeletal system is enabling us to have that vantage point to giving the body a nice view from the inside out. I think that we'll all be better suited talking about musculoskeletal injuries with our patients and understand nutrition is the way to go. Some factoids that I always like to share with everybody. 8 out of 10 people worldwide have lower back pain. 1/3 of most people have disc herniations without any pain. So there are certain things you're going to hear me say, like he who treats the side of pain is lost. You may come in for an injury, but I still want to fix the whole body. For me, with my chiropractic background and my addition of functional medicine, I look at the body at 2 separate, distinct hands, if you will. My left hand is my biomechanical hand. My right hand is my biochemical hand. Together, I put it together and we make a handshake. So those who are biomechanically oriented or mechanically oriented are going to add the biochemistry. Those who are biochemistry added are going to take a good look at this and understand how intricate and how fascinating the musculoskeletal system is. Jim Rohn once said, he's a real favorite of mine. He said, take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live. So I've asked so many people, it doesn't matter if you have 5 cents or $500 million. If you don't have health and your body doesn't work, there's no true happiness. And the only car that we have is our physical body. The only engine we have is our heart. And the only computer system we have is our brain. And they're all part of the musculoskeletal system. So let's take a look at the injury cycle. So many people come in and just think, hey, it hurts, I injured that area. Well, there's usually something that precedes the actual musculoskeletal injury. And my belief is a lot of these injuries are of what we call cumulative trauma. Cumulative trauma, inherent in the word, cumulative damage to a specific areas of the body. There's also initial trauma, car accident, falling down a flight of stairs, maybe a hard tackle in rugby or soccer, football, American football, if you will. So these muscle imbalances can lead to impaired movement. I'm a big proponent of movement. Movement lets me know a lot. It actually tells me a history of your injuries. It tells me a history not of just your musculoskeletal injuries, but of your musculoskeletal injuries tying in with your central nervous system. Posture. Posture is a shadow of movement. So I can know about posture. I'll know how you're going to move. So someone comes in and their left foot is pointed out. I'll realize that if I ask them to squat or run or stress, their left foot will go out more. So posture is a shadow of movement. Faulty motor learning. That's the idea of your brain now projecting a signal that's aberrant to proper movement. So if you sprain your ankle, it's a great example. So ankle sprains are a very common sports injury. They're actually the highest reoccurrence injury, about 80%. You sprain your ankle and you rest it, but you don't do proprioceptive healing, which we're going to get to, or any kind of nutrition. You're going to have aberrant movement because your brain's going to protect those injured areas, and you're going to move funny, or if you will, faulty motor learning. Then as you go along, you'll have altered joint forces. So biomechanically, you will not be moving in an appropriate manner. Things will be rubbing against each other. Proprioception, your balance in space between your nervous and muscular system. It's your sense of awareness of where you are. That can lead to what we call joint degeneration. That joint degeneration, that damage to the joint, so many people consider arthritis, can lead to pain and inflammation, and that pain and inflammation can lead to more muscle imbalance, and now you're in this vicious injury cycle. I use a lot of computer printouts and slides in my office. This is probably maybe my most used slide. So let's take a look at the upper left, where we have a pre-injury healthy tissue, where we have perfectly striated muscle, where it looks like it can contract and eccentrically open. And what you're seeing is the muscle is in perfect condition, but inside the muscle, you've got the red and the blue. The red and the blue is both artery and vein. They both are carrying blood and carrying toxins away. We sometimes in chiropractic forget about the vascular system. The yellow-white guy, that's the nerve. We talk about that a lot, but you can see no impingement, no aberrant nerve movement. Now, when you move to the right, in the upper right, you have an injured strained muscle. That injured strained muscle doesn't allow blood vessels to carry nutrients and to the area and toxins in the arteries away from the area. It also seems to impinge on the nerve, ultimately leading, if somebody doesn't heal it through good quality exercise and nutrition, you're going to have healed scar tissue. Scar tissue left on the muscle after healing restricts the muscle fibers, nerves, and vessels, causing pain and leaving the muscle less flexible. Injuries are usually occurring to an error in movement. Many injuries are predictable and preventable. You always want to optimize function. Typically, injuries occur when your body encounters a force that exceeds the load-bearing capacity of the tissue that was compromised. So ligamentous injury. Here we have ligamentous injury that we know that ligaments take a long time to heal. Blood flow is poor. So typically in a ligamentous injury, you're seeing here a theorized paradigm of the role of ligamentous injury for inducing neuroplasticity and its effect and sensory motor function. Peripheral deafferentation, which is a loss of sense of input from a portion of the body. So pain, inflammation, this peripheral deafferentation and laxity leads to disrupted sensory feedback, altered motor output, leading to further degraded feedback, and you have continued floored output, which ultimately leads to induced neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is a buzzword. Neuroplastic, your brain is plastic, it's formable. Neuro, nerves. So most people think that if you have neuroplasticity, it's always positive, but we can have negative neuroplasticity like after a concussion. The body heals, the brain heals, but it heals aberrantly. So we want positive neuroplasticity. Ligamentous injury, if not healed correctly, will lead us to induced inappropriate neuroplasticity. The musculoskeletal injuries and chronic disease. Any musculoskeletal conditions increase the risk of chronic disease. 2 million people that show that osteoarthritis increase the risk of CVD. So prevention and early treatment of musculoskeletal injuries may play a role in preventing other chronic diseases. So that musculoskeletal component that isn't talked enough in functional medicine leads you down a path, if you can resolve it, leads you down a path of decreasing your incidence of chronic disease. Disc injuries, it's flexion movement versus flexion moment. Flexing the spine like in a sit-up, which is not appropriate. Bending forward at the lumbar spine and not at your hip, which is not appropriate, strains layers of collagen in the spinal discs. Those discs release MMPSs and cytokines. Those are the same MMPSs and cytokines that are also released at the time of leaky gut. MMPSs and cytokines lead you down a path of inflammation. MMPS is damaged fibrocartilage like discs. Cytokines lead you down a path of inflammation with the release of interleukins. However, when you have a flexion moment, you're bending at the hip, flexing forward, stiffening your core and your abs and having no movement in your lumbar spine. you're now going to decrease your incidence of disc injuries in your lumbar region. So a lot has to do with your biomechanical outcomes via your mechanical if you move well. Spine care, totals include direct medical expenses and indirect expenses. Spine care costs in the US are 100 billion. That equivocates to 13.6 billion in the US. Australia, about 1 billion. When you look at Australia, prescription pain opiate dispensing increased 15-fold. It cost the Austrian government with damage to the lower back 32% fold. So without question, just if you treated nutritionally spinal injuries, you would be busy in your office. So some of the things that I recommend for lumbar spine injuries would be glucosamine and chondroitin sulfate. Most people think of it just as an extremity or a knee injury, and there is good literature. However, in this study, they used an objective measure, an MRI, and they found the case suggested long-term glucosamine and chondroitin sulfate intake may counteract symptomatic spinal disc degeneration, particularly at a young age. So the case did suggest to take away that long-term chondroitin and glucosamine may counteract symptomatic spinal disc degeneration. So glucosamine and chondroitin, glucosamine HCl, glucosamine HCl, sorry, and chondroitin sulfate are a choice for spinal injuries. And I'll piggyback on that with well-researched nutrients help from the shock-absorbing components of cartilage, which are protoglycans and glucosamoglycans, and they can heal articular surfaces. Glucosamine and chondroitin sulfate are shown to reduce pain and inflammation and slow cartilage loss. MSM found to be a very effective synergistic sulfur donor. So most people with arthritis, most people with joint pain have a deficiency or a decrease in sulfur. So here's my nutritional protocol for joint and soft tissue support of the lower back. Number one, chondro joint aid. Now, chondro joint aid is interesting in that it contains a complete spectrum of research-backed joint and soft tissue supporting ingredients. Such ingredients include glucosamine, chondroitin, MSM, and hyaluronic acid, all which work in concert to support cartilage integrity and mediate oxidative stress in joints. Moreover, chondro joint aid also provides critical micronutrients and patented herbal extracts that support total joint and soft tissue health, including vitamin C, manganese, green-lipped mussels, we're going to talk about that, curcumin, boswellia, ginger, and the such. So many benefits and the quality differences if you were to use chondroitin, chondro joint aid, they support total joint and soft tissue health. They help regulate synovial fluid concentrations and articulations. They support cartilage, tendon, and ligaments, and they actually help heal pain associated with minor joint and muscle aches. So essentially what I like about the chondro joint aid is that it's a 3-in-1 formula. It actually has nutrients from chondro joint relief, chondro relief intensive care, and Herbalese. So essentially the takeaway is that it supports cartilage and soft tissue along with herbal joint and muscle discomfort. Remember, when we damage the disc is really like a soft tissue. So it's working all of what we call the extracellular matrix, everything outside the joint. It's got glucosamine HCl, as I said before, chondroitin sulfate, vitamin C, manganese, MSM, green-lipped mussel, hyaluronic acid. Now make note of hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid decreases as we age. Hyaluronic acid is sort of the ability to slide, or you need that because when it's in an abundance, the joints slide and they don't rub against each other. Plus, as I said, Herbalese, which has the ginger root, turmeric, boswellia, black pepper fruit extracts. So some additional ingredients, and again, this is a 2-packet-a-day product that I use, and it really works for a plethora of different injuries pertaining to soft tissue, joint, bone, disc, etc. So etriol are basically New Zealand green-lipped mussels. They actually contain essential fatty acids, ETA. They play a key role in the reduction of joint swelling due to arthritis. Many studies have shown that these oils from sea mussels are more effective in reducing inflammation than their NSAID counterparts, aspirin or ibuprofen. As I alluded to earlier, hyaluronic acid is a key component of all connective tissue in the body. Essentially, hyaluronic acid found in high concentrations in cartilage and synovial fluid in all joints actually helps regulate the repair processes during injury, inflammation, and surgery. ASU is great to help with healing cartilage. And nettle leaf is a natural anti-inflammatory remedy. It suppresses cytokine production and is shown to suppress the bad guy pathway of NF-kappa B. So chondro relief aid, if you were to do it on its own, it's 4 caps per day, joint and soft tissue. Chondro relief vegetarian is 4 caps per day, comprehensive joint and soft tissue support. Chondro relief plus, comprehensive joint and soft tissue support. And chondro relief intensive care, 4 caps per day, comprehensive joint and soft tissue support. So you have all these options in the Nutridyne line if you're interested in musculoskeletal injuries from the bone, the disc, the cartilage, and some of the outerlying soft tissues. Here's a study that talks about lower back pain. So EPA DHA in a 2-to-1 ratio. You need about 4 to 6 grams. What they found in a reduction of arachidonic acid to EPA ratios of about 50% in about 1 month of daily supplementation. The conclusion was very simple, that omega-3 fatty acids reduces systematic inflammation through dietary supplementation by lowering that very ratio. It also has potential for protective effects on the progression of a spinal disc degeneration. So the Omega Pure EPA DHA 720 is a choice. There's also a 2400, and essentially it's excellent for supporting musculoskeletal support. It's excellent for supporting cardiovascular and immune function. It's strong for skin health and vitality, cognitive support, and really what makes it better than some of the other fish supplements that are out there. As we all know, fish oil and omega-3 supplements are not created equal. Many omega-3 products provide a seemingly large amount of fish oil, but the source is low quality. It has negligible amounts of EPA and DHA, ultimately making the product less effective. EPA and DHA are ultimately what will determine the benefits that your patients will experience from a fish oil supplement. So this is why that the EPA DHA 720 provides nearly 4 times the potency of EPA and DHA, more so than typical fish oil supplements per serving. So you're getting a robust amount. The second study to talk about lower back pain and resolution of lower back is vitamin D deficiency, or if you will, insufficiency of 2.3 times. It makes people more likely to exhibit lower back pain than subjects with normal vitamin D3 concentration. So I'm a big proponent of D3 5000 with K2 supplementation. It's truly shown to support cardiovascular function, mood and stress, bone, skin, and immune function. These are a little older, but they're still so powerful. Here this study did a case study, and they looked at dosage of 4,000 to 5,000 IUs of D3 may be needed for an adequate response to influence lower back pain. This is an old study from spine, but I still use these dosages. People who are less than 110 pounds, I give 5,000 IUs to. Those over that body weight, I give 10,000 IUs to start. Here in this study, after 3 months, again in Spine Magazine, 299 subjects characterized as deficient in vitamin D reported a disappearance of their back pain, whereas in total, 341 out of 360 relieved their chronic lower back pain with the regimen of vitamin supplementation and no other treatment in addition. Now, nutrient delivery mechanisms to the intervertebral disc. Intervertebral disc degeneration is associated with dysregulation of the fiber network of genes, CTGF, and subsequent fibrosis in the multifidi muscle. Physical activity regulated expression of pro-fibrotic genes and attenuated fibrotic alterations in the multifidi muscle that are associated with intervertebral disc degeneration. To laymanize that a little bit, the multifidi is a critical extensor of the lumbar spine. Physical activity planks, and the nature are critical elements to enable you to not only hold your spine in appropriate areas so there's no injuries, it also, the physical activity engages the multifidi, which then allows certain nutrients and metabolic byproduct removal to occur. Fascia. Well, one of my favorite talks, fascia is the saran wrap or the full body wetsuit. We don't look at fascia enough, and people don't share nutritional protocols on fascia enough. So fascia is that white film that's on top of the salmon, and when you cut the salmon, it's in there, or it's the skin of the chicken being removed from the chicken, that white stuff. That's fascia. It's a living matrix. It's connective tissue. It's below the skin and above the muscle. It's a sheath in the body. Lymph nodes live in fascia. Nerves are in fascia. It's a sensory organ. It accounts for 20% of body mass. So fascia plays a major role in pain because it's the interconnected system. We all are connected because of fascia. It literally transfers force from one region to another. The key component to fascia is its ability to slide. It plays a major role in back pain. Without pain slide, it's 75% of movement. With pain, you're reduced to 50% of movement. Now, when was the last time we talked about a fascial protocol? Well, here it is. Nutrients for fascial healing: collagen, glucosamine chondroitin sulfate, bioflavonoids, vitamin C, SOD, zinc, hops, magnesium, and sulforaphane. So the protocol for fascial healing is very simply chondral joint aid, 2 packs per day, 1 in the morning, 1 at night. Dynamic multi-collagen renew has a multitude of collagens. Collagen enables you to, this particular dynamic multi-collagen has collagen 1 and 3, which is good for skin, hair, nails, and gut. Collagen 2, which is great for cartilage. It has collagen 5 and 10, which is good for tendons. It is the most advanced inclusive collagen on the market. Sulforaphane complex is a dietary supplement formulated from broccoli extract to support overall health and well-being. Broccoli, as we all know, is a nutritional powerhouse, typically rich in vitamins, flavonoids, glucosinolates, and essential minerals. The many health-promoting properties found in broccoli can be attributed to the phytochemical sulforaphane. Therefore, sulforaphane complex provides antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties to the local area. Magnesium, maybe an overlooked mineral, magnesium. Basically, the magnesium glycinate is great for muscle. It's shown to help and support healthy muscle function and recovery, healthy bone mineralization, cardiovascular function, nervous system and relaxation, and healthy blood sugar levels already in the healthy range. So here you have the protocol for fascial healing. That may be new for a lot of people. I'm looking forward to hearing some questions and feedback on that particular protocol. And some fascial food. You could have your bone broth, water, omega-3 fatty acids, healthy fats like avocado, olive, and coconut, foods high in antioxidants, and of course, always take your magnesium before bed. So my nutritional take. Why add nutrition? Well, for me, specific nutrients and oxygen are required to sustain a heavily used muscle. Overuse soft tissue injuries result when a supply of nutrients are unable to match the demands of the myotendinous region. Healthy nutrient supply through diet and supplementation assists the body with its natural function and its repair processes. So we need to add good quality supplements and diets to hope and help people heal in their musculoskeletal genre. Let's break some of these injuries down into what we call 3 phases, or the 3 phases of care. Phase 1 is the acute phase. It's a protective phase. It's when you see inflammation running in abundance. It's when you see the redness, etc. It's that protective phase. Phase 2, which is the subacute phase, which is day 4 up to including week 8, has 2 specific phases: a repair and a remodeling phase, in that order. So already day 4, you're already starting to see fibroblastic proliferation lying down. Hopefully, after getting through phase 2, you're now in phase 3, which is a wellness, prevention, and ongoing care phase. Unfortunately, when you get an injury, you can get into this chronic phase, which is typically beyond 3 months of ongoing repair and remodeling. If that person hasn't seen you and done what was needed to help, they probably now have scar tissue adhesions and fibrosis to some of the structures that were injured. The mature adult, published reports showed an increase of matrix metalloproteinases will lead to degenerative tendon disease. The inhibitors associated with a decrease in tendon dysfunction. A good inhibitor of MMPs would be a HOPS, which we're going to get to in a moment. This slide really speaks about failed healing of a rotator cuff repair. So after a rotator cuff repair, there's a tear, obviously, and there's a surgical repair. MMP1 and MMP9 come in and really degrade type 1 and type 3. So MMP1 and 9 expression reflects highly degenerated tendons or diminished ability to heal. So the two things that we need to block MMP1 and MMP9 before damaging collagen. Tendon heals in 3 overlapping phases. Very simply, just a reiteration of the first 2 phases of care, which were inflammation, repair, and remodeling. An enormous takeaway here is injured site never achieves the original histological mechanical feature of a healthy, uninjured tendon. So what I'm saying is that if you damage a tendon, it's never going to go back to its original ability unless we treat it and also treat it with nutrition and supplementation. Extracellular matrix, interesting, that is bone, ligament, tendon, vessels, connective tissue, skin, and of course fascia. They all form diverse structures. The biological processes are adhesion, mechanical support, migration, proliferation, and signaling. We'll see in the next slide about signaling. Diseases: arthritis, atherosclerosis, cancer, and asthma. The causes for the insult to the extracellular matrix are dehydration, poor nutrition, chronic inflammation, AGES, what a great acronym, advanced glycated end products from sugar being too high, toxicity, and injury. The extracellular matrix is composed of tissues that serve multiple purposes. Connective tissue, as we spoke about, provided adhesion to cells. They're a structural scaffold. They actually translate mechanical loading into cellular response. The huge takeaway is it's actively participating in intracellular signaling. So your extracellular matrix, everything outside of your bone, actually signals throughout the body. So if you have a musculoskeletal soft tissue injury, it is signaling inflammation throughout the body. So we know that we have to manage and modulate inflammation even if we have a musculoskeletal injury. That extracellular matrix now incorporates fascia, which is the largest system in the body and is the only system that touches every other system. So now, including fascia in the extracellular matrix, without question, you have a large speaking, communicating, the body's all connected system, and that's called your extracellular matrix incorporating your fascial system. So two of my friends, that I love to watch, they're my TV movie friends. They were actually getting their rotator cuff surgeries done at the same time. So if you want to avoid what they had to go through, collagen complex blends, 1 through 3, full spectrum super vegetable and fruit antioxidant blends. So your dynamic multi-collagen renew and your dynamic fruits and greens would be a great choice post-workout. So let's break down the 3 phases of care for everybody here. Let's take a look at the acute phase. You would want calcium, magnesium, lemon balm, malic acid, passion flower extract, and valerian root. These are all targeted for muscle support. The name of the product is Nutrizyme, and that's 3 caps twice a day on an empty stomach. So the second one that you would look at would be ginger, curcumin, boswellia, hops extract, and black pepper extract. So in that's a full formula for antioxidant support and immune function, and that's Inflammes Plus. This is one of my go-to products. Inflammes Plus is an herbal formula. It's shown really to support healthy inflammatory markers in the body. The phytochemicals in Inflammase Plus have undergone extensive clinical research to reveal their ability to act as free radical scavengers and promote healthy cell reactions to oxidative stress. Real clinical evidence and research cited within the multitude of studies for Inflammase Plus promotes healthy inflammatory markers in the body, promotes healthy immune function, supports overall health and well-being, supports healthy oxidative stress. Some other nutrients to address pain and inflammation. Turmeric, it inhibits inflammation by blocking the COX and the LOX pathway, stimulates tissue repair, mainly regeneration of muscle tissue. It also blocks NF-kappa B. Ginger, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. Boswellia inhibits the 5-lipoxygenase pathway, and green-lipped mussels have anti-inflammatory properties. Phase 2, subacute phase, collagen complex with fruit and vegetable complex. There's your dynamic multi-collagen, 2 scoops daily. Cartilage, soft tissue and herbal support for joint and muscle discomfort. Chondral joint aid, 2 packs daily. Undinatured collagen, 2. So that's an interesting undinatured collagen. Your body, when it senses it and processes it, will not attack it and let it go through to the joints. Magnesium, this is hops for joint relief. This is called Joint Ease, 1 cap twice a day. I use Joint Ease on many of my patients. Many people ask me how Joint Ease works. The big one is the undinatured collagen promotes cartilage remodeling and supports healthy immune function, resulting in joint flexibility and comfort. Joint Ease contains a proprietary collagen formula called UC2. Many studies show undinatured collagen's ability to promote healthy inflammatory markers and support healthy oxidative stress. This rich formula has really shown to help support joints and flexibility in my office, promote healthy inflammatory markers in the body, and support healthy oxidative stress. Maybe my favorite formula, pro-resolving mediators, a PRM resolve. We're going to have some slides on that, and everybody should really give a look at that, because when you use PRMs, you're enabling yourself to resolve inflammation. And for us in a musculoskeletal light, that is the key component. So the question was asked, why would I supplement with PRM? Well, it's sourced from fractionated marine lipids with the standard levels of 18 HEAP, 17 HDH, A, and 14 HDHA. Multifunctional approach to promoting healthy response to physical stress. SPMs or PRMs play a key role in resolving healthy immune response. They actually work through the resolution phase of immune response. PRMs are metabolites of omega-3 fatty acids. They can be further metabolized into different classes of SPMs, such as lipoxins, resolvins, maricins, and protectins. These PRMs encourage SPM production in the body. The ultimate end result is pro-resolving mediators allow for the promotion of healthy immune response, help body return to homeostasis, and removes unwanted debris and dead immune cells from the body. So this slide really depicts what's going on. On the left side, you have a arachidonic acid. In the center, you have your EPA, and on the right side, you have your DHA. So why are fish oils actually converted to 18 HEP and 17 HDHA? Well, the bottom line is, if you look at the conversion, it's poor because of cytochrome P450 in reference to EPA. That's the first phase of liver detoxification. And 15-lipoxygenase just is not converting well. Therefore, your best choice is to take the precursor to have the conversion to the resolvins, which allow for the resolution of inflammation, the protectins, which allow protection to nerves, and the maricins, which allow protection to muscles. So the takeaway with pro-resolving mediators is they allow for the resolution of inflammation and the homeostasis between the initiation and resolution of inflammation. One aside, if you take NSAIDs, don't bother taking the PRMs, because the NSAIDs are going to show off that lipid class switch that just came up, and you're not going to have the benefit of the PRMs. I always recommend not taking any NSAIDs. Vitamin D, I tell all my young interns, vitamin D should be prescribed by doctors to treat chronic musculoskeletal pain. So you come in and you have a musculoskeletal injury, you have an immune issue, vitamin D3 5000 with K2. So nutritional support for ongoing care and wellness after injury. My Dr. Rob Super 5, your Phyto Multi. I like a dynamic multi-power supplement that typically supports cognitive function and mood, provides antioxidants to help support oxidative stress, supports vibrant, healthy skin, supports energy and vitality, supports immune function, and helps you meet your daily vitamin mineral needs. Omega-3 fatty acids is shown to help with cell membrane health. It also aids in the biodiversity in the gut. Omega-3s are at the top of my list for supplementation. They are much more inexpensive than eating a large amount or a small amount even of wild omega-3 enriched fish called smash fish, which are salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, and herring. Vitamin D, we've talked about it plenty. Probiotics, so 80% of immune cells are in your gut. What you see is if you have leaky gut, you have an increase in musculoskeletal injuries. Probiotics are that organism that inherently isn't in the gut that we need to take to speak to the rest of our body. Organic super fruits and greens, so those are your dynamic fruits and greens. They are tasty, big seller in my office. They enable you to have higher pH, and you're going to get about 20 fruits and greens in one serving, one scoop serving. So let's go through this one more time. So the acute phase, understand that there's going to be tissue swelling, tissue congestion, pain modulation. The subacute phase, you'll have reduction of scar tissue formation, aiding connective tissue remodeling, support joint health, reduce the risk of re-injury and degeneration. Phase 3, continue connective tissue remodeling, support wellness care, maintain foundation nutrition, your Super 5, reduce the risk of re-injury. And if you're really joint oriented, it's very simple. Here we have the hops extract, the undenatured type 2 collagen. We all know that as jointies. We have our magnesium, and we have our probiotic, which includes Lactobacillus acidophilus, NCFM, and B-lactis BIO7. And last but not least, of course, our pro-resolving mediators. So the real question, so many of my patients come in, and as you all know, I'm actually in between patients right now, even though we are still in COVID-19. We're essential workers here. So I'm actually in my half of my COVID gear, if you will. So a lot of my patients always ask for MRIs. And the question is the abnormal the new normal? Abnormalities found on scans in asymptomatic people. The takeaway here is not that you can't take MRIs, and I know where you guys are, it's a little different in the ability to get the ease of an MRI. But the bottom line is when you look at these numbers, you will see that people who are asymptomatic have pathologies in joint. So the real question is, do we have to look at it at a biochemical level and say, hey, they're not symptomatic, asymptomatic because the biochemistry hasn't come over? Or do people have more injuries than we think? And how important is that MRI? Well, we saw that one. Antibiotics impact bone health. Adversely impacts bone health by interfering with gut bacteria. We all know that antibiotics are a non-starter, but they actually cause a disruption by a pro-inflammatory response that leads to less bone resorption, stimulates osteoclasts. Osteoclasts actually increase in number, size, and activity. Osteoclasts are not quite as effective. They are needed. They actually break bone down is the best way to describe it. Intestinal permeability leads to environmental triggers, lead to systemic inflammation, and lead to joint tissue reactivity. So there's a direct relationship between your gut health, your gut permeability, your environmental triggers, your systemic, and your joint. So here we're talking about the gut to joint axis. So joint autoimmunity, we're going to get a little heady with this. Number one is collagen, main component of connective tissue. Collagen found in tissues such as tendon, ligament, and skin, and it's very abundant in the gut and intervertebral discs. Fibrillin calcium binding glycoprotein found in blood and extracellular matrices. In the CC matrix, fibrillin associates with basement membranes and elastic fibers. Arthritic peptides, they actually a glucose 6-phosphate isomerase is an endogenous molecule associated with joints. So the gut-related environmental triggers that I mentioned before, here's some pathogen-related: gingivitis, streptococcus, Klebsiella, and bacterial toxins like lipopolysaccharide and endotoxin that we discussed in lesson number 1, and cytolethal distending toxin. Cytolethal distending toxin has shown to damage the gut lining, the tight junction lining, and can lead you down a path of SIBO. Dietary proteins that can be triggers to damage in your gut: gluten, dairy, pork, lectins and agglutidins like wheat, lentils, beans, and peas if you're allergic to those lectins. Pathogen or autoimmune mechanisms. You get this antibody cross reactivity. The antibodies get confused, they cross react, and they start to damage tissues, like an antigen mimicry. So the antibodies look at the antigens, and the antigen now becomes the joint. It now becomes the thyroid. The immune system is confused. You have increased inflammation and you have activation of the complement cascade. Your body starts to attack itself. We know that rheumatoid arthritis has the body attacking itself, but osteoarthritis also could fall under that category. Here's gingivitis. What you're seeing, gingivitis in the mouth, leading to a release of more toxins going down through the gut because there's a mouth to gut axis, damage to the barriers through the paracellular and transcellular pathways, causing an induction of systemic inflammation in multiple structures in the host, like the joint, the heart, and even the blood-brain barrier. Streptococcus actually releases enzymes and proteins. You get immune response and an antibody production against myosin and its cross reaction with these endothelial cells. These endothelial cells are cells that are lining to specific cells like muscle cells. Klebsiella. Wow. An infection with Klebsiella in the gut leads to gut dysbiosis, production of IgG and IgA antibodies, binding of Klebsiella antibodies to the cross-reactive self-tissue antigens present in the spine and chondrocytes. This antigen antibody activation of complement cascade, immune complex, cytokine production, you're basically getting Klebsiella-induced reactive arthritis. Dietary habits that encourage the overgrowth of Klebsiella, repeated episodes of Klebsiella, eventually can lead you down a path of HLA-B27 positive, which means you get ankylosing spondylitis. So really a lot of the different pathogens in the gut adversely affect joint health and can damage the joint without question. 3 different mechanisms controlling host microbiota interactions. They are gut dysbiosis, overall inflammation, and damage to your barriers. Your barrier like your gut barrier, your skin barrier, your blood-brain barrier. So those gut bacterial toxins that we talked about, like I said, there's always that functional medicine component to all that we do, because one of the key components to what we do is explain to the patient the systemic approach. Nutrition is very easy if you just want to add the supplement. It becomes very exciting for the patient when you explain why to them with the supplement. So LPS, an endotoxin on gram-negative bacteria. When the bacterium dies, LPS passes through an intestinal epithelial cell and enters the bloodstream. Systemic LPS is linked to multiple disorders. Cytolethal distending toxin is 11 times more inflammatory than LPS. How fascinating is that? And that is released from gram-negative bacteria. So when LPS, an endotoxin, is released, which holds gram-negative bacteria on the inside of the gut, you have damage to the heart, joint, thyroid, metabolic disorders, lung, brain, liver, and I want to emphasize the gut to joint pathway here. LPS-induced mitochondrial DNA contributes to NLRP3 inflammasome. That's the inflammasome that stimulates NF-kappa B, or once stimulated by NF-kappa B, release interleukins. And those interleukins are released from cytokines. Essentially, LPS in the gut communicates with something called toll-like receptor 4. Toll-like receptor 4 stimulates the NF-kappa B, ultimately releasing all those cytokines and interleukins. How do you block toll-like receptor 4 from getting stimulated from LPS? We'll have a good gut protocol and omega-3 fatty acids. So LPS plays a role in the exacerbation of autoimmune diseases because it stimulates that inflammation and starts the cascade of immune inflammation, where it may ultimately lead to the patient attacking its own structures. Contact with bacterial products such as LPS induces enterocytes to release several pro-inflammatory cytokines and chemokines such as interleukin 6 or 8. Interleukin 6 or 8 are two interleukins that have been indicated in blood tests to depict damage to discs in the spine. LPS, or an increase of LPS, is also shown to have an increase in muscle pain. The role of the gut and the microbes in the pathogenesis of spondyloarthritis. Intestinal microbiota is firmly implicated not only in the pathogenesis of inflammatory bowel disease, but increasingly also in the development of inflammation at extraintestinal tissue sites. So a couple of the key points from that study in 2014. Half of the spondyloarthritic patients exhibit signs of microscopic gut inflammation. Chronic gut inflammation predicts higher risk of evolving to ankylosing spondylitis. Therefore, a remission of the joint disease associated with reduced bowel inflammation and vice versa. Therapies targeting inflammation of both sides may be beneficial in spondyloarthritic patients with bowel inflammation. There's a distinct link between gut bacteria and successful joint replacement. Who would have thought of that? Healthy gut flora can lower the risk of inflammation following the knee and the hip replacement surgeries. Unhealthy intestinal flora may increase the risk of infection. The bottom line and the takeaway here is leaky gut equals inflamed joints. Intestinal LPS and cytolethal distending toxin are released from a leaky gut. They actually can lead to damage in the joints and even more extensive damage throughout the body. Leaky gut actually increases the likelihood of joint autoimmunity. At the end of the day, leaky gut must be diagnosed and repaired. So when we take a look at the gut health, we must know that the transcellular, which is the one in the center of the epithelial cell, the paracellular, which is the one breaking, looks like the tight junctions. If you can prevent this, you're ultimately going to be able to, and I deliberately picked the fourth finger versus the third finger, you're going to prevent this in the hand and what you see in the spine. Now, I've talked about it before, and I'm a big proponent of the gut. I'd really like to go over my Super 7R action plan. Number one, reset. Reset what? Your diet, your lifestyle, your mindset. Mediterranean diet, ketogenic diet, paleo diet, whatever is best for that patient, that individualization, the personalization of what's right for their diet. So resetting their mindset, getting them exercising. I mean, you know, it's funny. You learn one thing from COVID-19. There were two things that every government thought were essential: eating and exercise. So good eating and exercise are critical, and they're a great way to reset somebody's lifestyle. Number two, remove. You want to remove unwanted pathogens. Well, you did so by having them eat a gluten-free, dairy-free, low sugar, low processed food diet. That's number one. Number two, oregano oil. Great idea. Spectrum AR is excellent because it has oregano oil, which is going to take away the bad bacteria in the upper respiratory region. Berberine, or Spectrum BR. Berberine is a beautiful herb that I like to titrate. That's great for your train wreck patient. It's great for dysbiosis. Will remove the bacteria from the lower bowel. Garlic. Garlic is your own natural antimicrobial antibiotic. And, interesting here, remove unwanted pathogens. That's also toxins. I'm a big proponent of adding in detox phase 1 and 2 to detox the area, because there's a direct gut to liver axis. The liver has more macrophages than any other body part. Macrophages are part of your innate immune system. When they run aberrantly, lead you down a path of tissue damage. So remove is one of the critical elements. I'm always resetting, removing right away. Number 2. Replace needed digestive enzymes, stomach enzymes, pancreatic enzymes, and bile. The Digestive Complete, which we're going to go into detail, is a beautiful formula that will enable you to do all 3 in one particular bottle. Regenerate with GI Integrity and GI Restore. Regenerate damaged intestinal mucosa, heal and seal the gut lining. Reinoculate with a quality pre and probiotics. The Spore Probio comes to mind every time. Bacillus subtilis is a great probiotic. It is shown to be very potent and powerful. It's a spore, so it's encapsulated, and it gets to the stomach without being died off from acid and other temperature changes. It comes with a quality prebiotic, or XOS, xylo-oligosaccharides. The xylo-oligosaccharides are fabulous in that they only feed the good bacteria. And in addition, it has a bacterial phase which kills specific bacteria. So the Spore Probio right there, I put right in. At that point, you then want to transmit and transfer into the reintroduce phase. So there's where you would retest and reintroduce and see if you can reintroduce certain foods. For instance, I'm not going to reintroduce gluten and dairy and high sugar foods. I may introduce spirulina because you may have had a food sensitivity test at the beginning and your leaky gut may have led you to that food sensitivity. Maybe now your gut is, through the testing, healed, and now you won't have that same food sensitivities. Last but not least, retain. Retain what? Retain your health and GI integrity. Do so with my Dr. Rob Super 5, multivitamin, multimineral, omega-3 fatty acid, a probiotic, vitamin D3 with K2, and last, of course, dynamic greens, or dynamic fruit and greens. So I just want to reiterate my Dr. Rob's 1 month gut to joint protocol. So here we have your dynamic GI integrity and GI restore. The GI integrity has glutamine, glucosamine HCl, zinc. Zinc carnosine is critical in that it's great for tight junction help. DGL licorice, apple pectin, aloe vera, slippery elm, and mucin. It also has a large number of herbal extracts, MSM and quercetin. So ultimately, you're going to use GI integrity for those patients looking to support the GI tract in a healthy and herb-based manner. The Restore is going to restore the integrity also. They're a great combination. I'm a big proponent of 1 scoop of each. Your pro-resolving mediators are also a great choice. Pro-resolving mediators lead you down a path of the resolution of inflammation. Digestive Complete, a 3-in-1 like we talked about. So digestive enzyme breakdowns are easy, or at least they're also interesting. Carbohydrates to amylase to maltose, proteins, large amino acid chains, protease to amino acids, peptides, which are small amino acid chains, go to pepsin and amino acids, fats go to lipase, and ultimately fatty acids and glycerol. So what are you getting in the Digestive Complete? You're getting betaine HCl, a stomach acid, responsible for a large portion of digestive processes. Ox bile. Bile is excreted by the liver and secreted into small intestines. Ox bile contains bile acids that support the absorption of dietary fats and fat-soluble vitamins in the digestive tract. A tremendous amount of research supporting ox bile supplementation for digestive health. And last, additionally, it has some others, but the ones I want to make note of is L-taurine. naturally occurring essential amino acid that promotes healthy energy metabolism. It's often been described as a wonder molecule for its multitude of health benefits. Taurine plays a critical role in digestion by helping the liver to create bile salts. And we all know that bile acids break down cholesterol, convert it to salts. The bile salts help break down fats in the intestinal tract, which ultimately leads to the absorption of nutrients. Spectrum AR, we talked about that a little before. That is your oregano oil, high potency nutritional supplement, blending those oils and extracts from the aromatic mint family along with ginger and cloves. And then at last, you've got your Asperlardi. You can put Asperlardi in with your Spore Probio. Asperlardi is a takeaway because Asperlardi is a yeast that functions like a probiotic. So what's the big idea? Carpal tunnel. Everybody knows about carpal tunnel. I want to whisk through these. Carpal tunnel, what we found out that the old and still pretty good protocol would be all your different B vitamins, omega-3s, and a standard herbal relief for minor pain. Sciatica, the largest nerve in the body. I like to call it sciatica. An older protocol, which was alpha lipoic acid, 600 milligrams, and GLA 360 plus rehab, worked really well. The most up-to-date nerve protocol, or what we call nervies, is PEA, which is a bioactive lipid. It helps promote relaxation and healthy nerve function. PEA is produced naturally in every cell of the body in biological response to inflammatory markers. You mix that with alpha lipoic acid, the only antioxidant that works with the watery and the fat part of the cell. It's a potent ingredient that supports healthy inflammatory response, contains multiple antioxidant properties, healthy supporting glutathione levels in the body. PEA, through multiple studies, and ALA work together to promote healthy inflammatory response. It is Nervies. I've been using Nervies because of its immune promoting possibilities with COVID-19. As a chiropractor, most people come in with a nerve problem. So the multiple benefits of Nervies are very simply supporting inflammatory responses, healthy joint function, restful sleep and relaxation, promotes joint flexibility and comfort, healthy functioning of the cannabinoid system, and positive measures of quality of life. A hidden gem, curcumin. Curcumin accelerates the repair of the sciatic nerve injury. The curcumin that I like is curcumin 400. Curcumin is shown not only to be good for sciatica, but it's also good to support the immune system, helps with minor joint discomfort, relieves exercise-induced muscle soreness, powerful antioxidant activity, helps maintain blood sugar and blood lipids in a normal range, and actually aids in digestive function. Curcumin decreases the NF-kappa B pathway while increasing the key antioxidant pathway of NRF2. So my concussion nutrition protocol, like I said, if I'm going to whisk, I'm going to whisk through this now because we're getting to the end, and I do know that we're probably going to go over just a couple of minutes, and I want to answer any questions for the attendees who have been so kind to listen to us tonight. Number one, in concussion, and by the way, Rob will let you know we're going to do a full 60 to 90-minute webinar on concussion. Ketogenic diet. Ketone bodies provide energy for the brain. Your brain essentially works better on fat than it does on carbohydrates. This is sort of a teaser for the concussion webinar later in the year. Creatine gives the brain an intense immediate energy to heal cells. It's also been shown to be very positive for short and long-term amnesia. If you want to reduce inflammatory damage to the brain, nothing better than omega-3 fatty acids. Great for axonal damage, great for cell membrane health. Also shows to decrease the incidence of concussion before the impact. Boswellia, quercetin, ginger, all very positive. We've talked about turmeric and curcumin. Antioxidants, alpha lipoic acid, pro-resolving mediators. Choline, make note, is critical for brain development, also good in an Alzheimer's protocol. Vitamin D is neuroprotective. Zinc is an enzyme for central nervous system function. Sulforaphane inhibits MMP9 and activates the NRF2. Magnesium, magnesium L-threonate. It's called Magtine. It's an absolute beautiful weapon against delayed brain injury. It's all incorporated in the next succeeding slide. Acetyl L-carnitine energizes the brain. Glutathione is the body's #1 intracellular antioxidant. It is shown to decrease brain tissue damage by 70%. Coffee fruit extract, which is now being processed as a supplement, increases brain-derived neurotrophic factors. BDNF lead to brain neurogenesis, and we talked about taurine before, blocking excitotoxicity. Excitotoxicity refers to the idea of the release of glutamate. The NMDAR pathway gets opened, excessive glutamate opens the pathway up. Calcium goes from the extracellular to the intracellular space, causing neural excitation. And in addition, it also starts to lead to plaquing. So we want to decrease the opening of the cleft and prevent calcium from going inside. Nothing better at doing that than taurine. So some possible support offered by omega-3 fatty acids in the TBI. Omega-3 fatty acid promotes neural cell survival, reduction of apoptosis, reduction of oxidative stress, synaptic plasticity, and neurotransmission. Pro-resolving mediators are shown to prevent memory loss. These are huge study takeaways that are right at the tip of the literature. Here is your concussion nutrition protocol. As Rob said, he will get you the slides tomorrow. The MCT oil will enable you to have ketone bodies. The MCT oil is called MCT oil. Keto salts, keto resilience. Keto resilience is interesting in that the salt provides not only NaCl, which is a salt. It also provides the ketone bodies to get you out or get you into ketosis. When people come in concussion, I give them MCT oil and keto resilience right away to get them into ketosis. Creatine. The creatine I recommend is creatine powder. For concussion, omega-3 fatty acids, omega pure EPA DHA 2400 liquid. Boswellia, ginger, and turmeric, herbal ease. Alpha lipoic acid, the product is called alpha lipoic acid. PRM is PRM. Choline, acetyl L-carnitine, brain restore, a beautiful formulation. Vitamin D, so to start D3 10,000 with K2, titrate down the D3 5,000 with K2. Sulforaphane complex, magnesium L-threonate, it was Magtine, taurine, pure taurine is the product, and glutathione, liposomal glutathione. The liposomal nanotechnology ensures that you get glutathione in. Taking a straight glutathione, your body will kill it with stomach acids. So your two options are NaC, which is a great precursor, or glutathione in a liposomal form. So before we leave, I always like to end with a quote. I know that was information overload. I always come with a lot of information. We are going to end these webinar series with basically case studies and questions. So as we build to the crescendo, feel free to ask questions. But the quote simply says, Oliver Wendell Holmes, or Sir Oliver Wendell Holmes said, "The mind once stretched by a new idea never returns to its original dimensions." And if you guys need to get in touch with me, very simply, Dr. Robert Silverman is my website. My Facebook is Dr. Robert Silverman. And I run a mastermind laser group on Facebook, and it's there. And I'm going to turn the mic back over to Rob because I know we're just at that hour and I want to answer any questions that anyone may have posed.
Very much, Rob. Great webinar once again. Like I say, if anyone's got any questions now, feel free to ask away and we'll cover those. While anyone's asking any questions, I just want to kind of give you lesson 3 will be on sleep, and that will be on the 16th of July. So you can register for that at our website, nutri-dine.co.uk/education. You can get yourself booked onto there. We're also doing, Rob and I, a bonus webinar, which we're just going to release in the next few weeks, which will be on the health appraisal questionnaire and how to correctly use that in your practice with patients or with customers. So be kind of stay tuned for that. I do want to touch briefly on the Collagen Renew. Currently, it's not available in the Nutridyne Europe store, only because of regulations and red tape getting it into the country through customs. So I'm currently working very hard on that to be able to get that product offered in Europe, and hopefully I can do that soon. Right, okay, Dr. Rob, a few questions. So is vitamin D supplementation for chronic back pain with 5,000 or 10,000 IUs independent from D3 blood test results, or if you see adequate blood test vitamin D levels, is the incidence of back pain reduced?
It's a great question. So I'll answer it. It's always better to take a blood test, and because then you know where their levels are. And most people, I don't see it being much different where you guys are in the UK over the pond from where we are. If you don't have the natural sun, I live in New York, the East Coast, similar type of weather, your vitamin D is going to be low. Having said all that, blood tests are great. And having really segue into, at some point, we'll show you test, not guess. It's actually a chapter coming up in my upcoming book, but that would be a great webinar so everybody starts with baseline.
When would you recommend taking an Omega liquid versus a capsule?
Some people don't like capsules, and the liquid seems to be a higher dose. So I recommend the liquid for a concussion because the 2400 is the most plentiful in omega-3s that you can get in. Otherwise, the capsule's fine. I have no preference. The dosage is the difference between the liquid and the capsule. It's actually not a capsule, it's a soft gel.
Brilliant. And that is it for the questions. So not many questions tonight, but Dr. Rob, thank you as ever for a great webinar, and we'll see you. Oh, one's just popped up, so don't go anywhere. Do you suggest any nutrients or tailored nutrition to any specific genetic profile to determine injury-prone size?
You know, it's funny you say that. Now, I don't know if it's available where you are, but I use something called Toolbox Genomics, and I actually have a kit that they run for specific SNPs, genes, and traits for musculoskeletal injuries. So if we can get it there, I'm very happy to do one on that testing with you, Rob. I just don't know if you guys can get it. So if not, what I'll do is in a email later, I'll list all the markers so you can share that with the person who inquired.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll speak to you about that at a later date. We'll get something sorted, hopefully. So yeah, that's everything. Thanks again, Dr. Rob. Thank you everyone for listening in, and we'll see you all soon. Have a nice evening.
You too now. Have a great one.